today. It's all about navigating school when your child has epilepsy, a history of epilepsy surgery, or another complex neurological condition. And whether your child has an IEP, a 504 plan, or you're homeschooling, or the child doesn't have any plan, we're here for you. Our sponsorship from UCB helps make these power hours possible. We're really grateful for their support. I want to just start by talking briefly about seizure action plans and why they matter. It's something that sometimes gets overlooked in the conversation about schools. We do a lot of talk a lot about goals and progress and placement and whatnot, but this is a really central part of our kids' education. And so before we jump into our education resources, I'm just going to take a minute to talk about this. If you don't already know, a seizure action plan is a critical document that helps staff, either at your child's school or in their community, or both, respond quickly and safely if your child has a seizure. My son had a seizure action plan all the way through school, even though he hasn't had a seizure since he was 2 and he had his hemispherectomy. And now he's 21. We still utilize his seizure action plan as part of his emergency healthcare binder in his apartment setting, and all of his staff is trained on it, for example. This would include details like the seizure types, triggers, rescue meds, when to call 911, et cetera. And if your child does have a need for a rescue medication, they should carry their rescue therapy to school or in the community. I know different states and schools have different laws about carrying a rescue med, so this is going to have to vary based on where you are. You can reach out to your local epilepsy foundation for information about that. Working with the school nurse or staff at other locations, like even a job site or community setting, if your child's homeschooled and they're in some sort of group programs, just make sure that staff know, everybody who works on your with your child knows their seizure action plan. It's best when paired with a 504 and IEP if your child is enrolled at school, so that we're considering both the medical and the learning needs all the time. Sometimes I think our schools forget how impacted our children are, especially if they had surgery and they're controlled. But the reminder that there's this history of epilepsy can help the team understand how impactful that kind of, epilepsy is a lifelong impact, has a lifelong impact. So we want to make sure that we keep that awareness. And then if your child has epilepsy or has had surgery, a seizure action plan should always be part of the school's individualized healthcare plan and inserted into the IEP and be updated every year. There has a new change recently. I think this came out about 2 weeks ago. So the International League Against Epilepsy has new seizure classifications. And this is how seizures are classified, or how doctors and epilepsy specialists describe and group seizures. And since I was talking to you all today, I thought this was a great opportunity to tell you all about this in case you're not aware. These updates help parents, teachers, and doctors speak the same language when talking about seizures. Now, instead of over 60 types of seizures, there are just 21, still a lot, but it does make it a bit easier to understand. And they're grouped into 4 main categories: focal, meaning they start in one part of the brain; generalized, meaning they start across both sides of the brain; unknown, meaning we don't know where they start; or unclassified, meaning we don't have enough information yet. Doctors are now using the term consciousness instead of awareness to describe if a child is awake and responsive during the seizure. Some seizures have no clear physical signs like staring or confusion, which means schools need to know what to look for. So as parents, what we all need to know now based on these new classifications is we want to ask our children's neurologists to explain their current seizure type or what they might be at risk of. So my son hasn't had a seizure in 18, 19 years. So I would ask his neurologist what would be the most common type of seizure we would expect to see if seizure recurrence were to happen, or if your child currently has active seizures. Describe the seizure type in the new terms, these new classification terms. Make sure this is updated in your child's seizure action plan and any school paperwork. And then let the school team know if your child has seizures that might be easy to miss or don't look like what people expect. There's a misunderstanding in the world that if your child can talk through a seizure, it's not a seizure. We now know that's not true, but that sometimes that information doesn't trickle down, just as an example. And then make sure you're including not only the seizure descriptions, but also the triggers for your child in their IEP or 504 plan, and update them yearly. Before we jump into the open forum, which is coming, I promise, we're going to walk through some of the tools that we offer at the Pediatric Epilepsy Surgery Alliance to help you advocate more effectively at school. Based on some of the questions that have come in, there is need for this awareness of our resources. So if you go to our website and you click on the resources and support, or you hover over this, resources and support, this drop-down menu will appear. And so we have school and learning here. We have transition to adulthood here. We have free school training here, and the almost everything list. So these are some of the resources I'm going to talk about today. Oh, and they're listed also here under our online courses. That's a new tab. So if you go to our school and learning, a few resources we have to help you there. You can start with our course, which I'm going to walk you through here. You can join our Facebook group, which is a great place if you have a quick question or you just want some feedback from other parents and you don't necessarily want to hear from me or have a webinar. Just a great place to jump in with quick questions. Lots of different perspectives there. And you can sign up for a free school training if your child has had epilepsy surgery. And there's a link to do that on our website. So if you enroll in our Navigating the IEP Process course, which I highly recommend that everyone who signed up for this webinar does, it will take you into our course. So I'm just showing you a little bit of an overview of what it looks like. This is one of the first sections, but you can see on the side here is the list of some of the areas that are covered. This is quite an extensive course. Here's even more. At the very end, one of my favorites sections is all the handouts for the whole course, because a lot of times I can't find X form, everything's here. So if you want to go into the course, everything is in this Navigating the IEP Process course. Every question that came in today is addressed somewhere in this course, so please take a look at it. You'll also find embedded in the course are educational assessments checklists. So this is on the cognitive intelligence tab. If you look down at the bottom, there's many tabs in this spreadsheet, but this just gives you an example of what would be on that particular tab. And if you hover over any tab that has a little orange triangle in the corner, it'll give you a further description of that particular assessment. And then here's what the auditory tab looks like, just at a quick glance. And then health assessments, for example. I've recently gone in and updated our assessments and goals and special education resource guide, all the resources I'm about to show you, or I'm showing you, with more goals and information on transition to adulthood and healthcare resources. So be sure to check these out. If you've looked at it already, come back in. Our IEP Goal Bank is also embedded in our IEP course. So the IEP Goal Bank looks like this. This is the first tab, but if you look at the bottom, there's lots of tabs. This is just the sample that you would create. You can copy this form and create your own spreadsheet for your child. But this is what some of the goals look like. So we're looking at what is the category, what's the grade level, does it align with a Common Core state standard, what is the goal now, right? And then some notes about these different goals. And then here's an example for AAC related goals. I'm moving quickly because you're going to get all these resources emailed to you after our session today. This is just to give you an overview of what's in there. This is some of our motor goals and notes. And then we also have something called the Special Education Resource Guide, which I spent quite a bit of time last year working on and building out based on feedback I was getting from school teams when I did the IEP trainings for the school teams, that they wanted more information. So this really has everything in one place. It doesn't have a lot on goals and assessments, so you will still need to use those spreadsheets. But if you look at starting on line 8, assessments, this covers everything that's in the IEP. So what's the assessment? What's the specially designed instruction needed? What's the related services needed? Then supplementary aids and services, we're looking at accommodations, adaptations, and team time, which if it's not already in your child's IEP, it should be. Program modifications and supports for school personnel, and then the resources for school teams. School teams love this guide, but it's kind of secretly for parents as well, because we want you to have access to all of this information. And then it links to all the resources I'm talking about here today as well. And then I got a question about what about a child that's transitioning to adulthood? So you're in luck. We have a course for that as well. This is just an overview of all the content that is in the transition to adulthood course. So if you have not done this yet, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I could spend all day talking about it. I think there's about 10 hours of training in here. And then I just created a new section on college after epilepsy surgery where you will have to jump in and take a look at that. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this today. I just wanted to kind of give you an overview. I will send this slide deck out after today's session to everyone who registered, and you'll get these are clickable links so you can find all of this more easily. Thank you. You can always email me, avernick at epilepsysurgeryalliance.org or info at epilepsysurgeryalliance.org. And then before we transition into the open forum, which I will stop the recording before we get there, we did have a few questions come in advance. So in general, need more information about IEPs. That's where the Navigating IEP, the IEP course comes in. We also have a great YouTube channel with, if you go to our YouTube channel, Pediatric PISA, or it might be PES Alliance, but if you just search Pediatric Epilepsy Surgery Alliance on YouTube, you can subscribe to our channel. And then in the channel, there's a search feature, which is a different magnifying glass. And you can just search school, and every single webinar and recording from our conference that's ever been done about school will be found. So you could spend a lot of time poking around there too. Steps parents and schools can take to help a high school student prepare for an IEP. There is an example document in the transition course where the student can lead their own IEP with some questions, leading questions that can help with that.